Hi guys, welcome to episode 54 of my Warhammer Conquest review series. This week we're going to be reviewing issue 54, which comes with Typhus. So let's get into this. Open that up. There we go. Now let's look at the thing everyone wants to look at. The base. Look at the size of that thing. That's a massive base, which is not surprising being as it comes with this badass. This is Typhus. Typhus is one of the first Marines to go over to Chaos, and he is one of the first Marines to go over to Nurgle as well, if not the first Marine. He actually went before his Primarch, Mortarion, and is actually the cause of the downfall of the Death Guard. It was his fault they became followers of Nurgle. We have some awesome detail there. Flies buzzing and stuff like that. Typhus is the home to the Destroyer Hive, which is a plague of destructive supernatural insects, kind of shown by the sort of bony protrusions on his back. See, I always assume they're bones sticking out, but they could be they could easily be hive material that you get on a beehive. That does have a sort of brownie papery look. Typhus comes in Terminator armor, and he has this massive scythe, which is a Man Reaper. And he is frankly a badass, as you'd expect. Well, anybody with a massive scythe in Terminator to be, but particularly if somebody is a follower of Nurgle, this guy is incredibly difficult to get off the table. I played against him in the previous edition, haven't had a chance to go up against him in this edition, but it's only a matter of time, particularly now that he's come out in Conquest. Worth noting that this is worth £25. I paid $7.99 for it, so that's a saving of £17 and a shiny penny. So if you are a Death Guard collector and you haven't got Typhus, go out and buy issue 54 of Warhammer Conquest, because it will save you a bomb. If you're not a Death Guard collector and you want Typhus, still $7.99. It's a fraction of the cost. Making this one of the better magazines in terms of savings that we've had so far. Right, some fantastic artwork there. You can see Typhus fully assembled in all his glory, with the Destroyer Hive coming round back. A single horn, which is fairly standard of Zentian models, and the scythe, which is very symbolic of the Death Guard. Like most Death Guard, he is not a fast-moving character. He is slow, he is plodding, and he is inexorable. Page 1, we've got standard table of contents and signature from Ian there. And here it goes straight into who Typhus is, what he does. Typhus is Lord of Mortarion's First Company, which is the equivalent more of a chapter master than a company captain. Because, well, I say first, he's Lord of the First Company. And usually the Lord of the First Company is in charge of the first chapter, technically, although the first chapters are also usually led by the Primarch. They're usually companion bodyguard type deals. Yeah, the first chapter and the first company are usually the closest of the close. But remembering it is a legion, a lot of people, a lot of the command structure of the legion is based on legion, chapter, company. The post-heresy loyalists broke down into chapters separately, so each legion had 10 chapters in it. Each chapter had 1,000 Marines. Each legion consisted of roughly 10,000 Marines. Some were larger, some were smaller. I don't believe Death Guard were the largest, just down to the fact that they would march slowly and inexorably towards the enemy and get shot a lot in the process. But in theory, there were 10 companies. In theory, the 10 companies, 10 chapters, and the lord of the first company would, in theory, be the lord of the first chapter as well. But I'm not 100% sure on this. I haven't read the specific novels with Typhus in. However, that does mean he was in a particularly important part of the Legion, in that he was, as with most legions, the first company would have been the Terminator company, the company that would have the elite stuff and got the best. So Typhus is the head of the elite Death Guard. He's their first Terminator captain, at the very least. Certainly, power level wise, he'd be akin to a chapter master. Anyway, Typhus is the Lord of Mortarian's first company and host of the Destroyer Hive. At the helm of his ancient warship, the Terminus Est, he spreads plague and misery across the galaxy, slaying millions in the name of Nurgle and his Primarch. Worth noting was he does it in the name of his Primarch. Him and his Primarch don't get on. Mortarion didn't willingly choose to join Nurgle. He did it to save his chapter, and Typhus manoeuvred him into a position where he had no choice. So it's entirely possible that Mortarion will kill Typhus if he gets the chance. As a matter of fact, from what I understand, he already did. He ordered a demon to kill Typhus. The demon killed Typhus by infesting him with the Destroyer Hive, which full on killed him and then full on raised him back from the dead. So Typhus is a bit of a plague zombie as well. It goes in here. Typhus has truly been blessed by Nurgle. When the Death Guard were trapped in the warp, dying from the Destroyer Plague, Typhus, then known as Callus, Typhon, absorbed the full power of the disease. His skin and armour fused together, and great funnels of pestilence grew from his body, spewing forth destruction. He had become the host for the Destroyer Hive. The Destroyer Hive sprouts from Typhus' ancient armour. So I was right, that stuff at the back is literally a beehive type thing. Sprouts from Typhus' ancient armour and buzzes with clouds of filth-ridden flies, each carrying the gruesome Destroyer Plague. Infected victims die of terrible pain before being turned into shambling poxwalkers that spread the infection further through their deadly bites. Here we've got another awesome picture of Typhus surrounded by his Death Shroud Terminators. Gives you another idea of how badass he is. Yeah, he's got Terminators that answer to his beck and call, so he's obviously tough. We've got a tower there to give you an idea of his size. The guy is huge. Typhus is Man Reaper. Typhus carries one of the giant power size known as Man Reapers. It is rumoured that Typhus once dipped the blade of his deadly weapon into the festering pools of Nurgle's garden. Whether this rumour is true or not, the merest touch of the grime slick blade is capable of reducing victims to a festering pile of rancid flesh and powdered bone. So not only is a massive great scythe, it kills on touch. Now we've got a picture of Terminus Est, which frankly looks like the cuddliest of ships. It's kind of covered in flesh with kind of arachnid eyes and teeth there. It's barely recognisable as a ship anymore, although I imagine it's fully functional. Most powerful warship in the fleet of the Death Guard is a colossal abomination thick with plague, rust and decay. Yet it is capable of unleashing apocalyptic destruction against enemy fleets, space stations and planets alike. The vessel stranded in the warp and afflicted by Nurgle's deadly disease, the Destroyer Plague. The entire crew, with the exception of Typhus, was struck down with this deadly infection. Typhus, however, swelled in power, becoming host of the Destroyer Hive and one of Nurgle's most trusted servants. The Terminator Est is now just as twisted and corrupt as his infamous master, and spread all manner of disgusting demonic growths and plague flies and plague spores drift around his corroding hull and pus leaks between armoured plates. So just like everything else in Nurgle, it's held together by pus and rust, but that tends to make it somehow tougher than you'd ever imagine. Here we've got a picture of the Terminus Est before. So there's a before and after picture. Created in the shipyards of Luna many years before the Horsay, it was considered a colossal vessel even by the standards of the time. Slow and cumbersome, but far more power than most other warships. The Emperor gifted the Legion to the vessel to the Legion known as the Dusk Raiders. The Dusk Raiders were the Death Guard before they were the Death Guard, and they were known for basically attacking at dusk when the enemy was most vulnerable. And then when Mortarion took over, he completely changed them and turned them into something else. I won't get into everything, but there's even more description there of what it is, what it does, and how badass it is. Next, we've got the Chronicles of Blood. Continuing with their review of other Space Marine chapters, giving you an idea of who's what and where in the universe. We've got... No, it's just a bit of... We've got 2 pages dedicated to the Blood Angels. With their prime up fallen, their gene seed curse, the Blood Angels direct their fury towards the enemy of the Imperium. Alongside their newly founded successor chapters, they respond to calls from help across the galaxy. As I mentioned on last week's, the Blood Angels are lunatics. They are completely insane, bloodthirsty berserkers. But at the same time, they're also one of the most humane, most caring chapters in the Imperium. And one of the ones that values humanity most. That's not an accident. That's literally that is kind of the vampire thing, which is, you know, you've got the monster, the predator, and the sort of the immortal human being trying to coexist, and they've carried that on from the vampire type novels straight into the Blood Angel chapter, and and made that pretty much a big chunk of the theme. They are bloodthirsty maniacs who will tear people limb from limb with their bare hands, quite literally, and sometimes succumb to, even permanently, the Black Rage. But outside of that, they're one of the most human and humane chapters, and they'll do everything they can to protect and help humanity, which is one of the things, to be honest, that makes the Blood Angels one of the more interesting chapters. That and the name Blood Angel is one of the most edgelordy names you'll ever hear for anything. It's got a timeline-based history covering an age of Red Wrath, the Black Crusade, the Third War of Armageddon, and the Shield of Baal. Yep, Angel's Blade, Desperate Measures, and all the way through the history of the Blood Angels. And covering the defense of the Blood Angels' homeworld against Tyranids and stuff like that. So that's pretty cool. Is it Blood Angels' homeworld? No, covering the Blood Angels' fight against Tyranids at least. Here we've got the instructions on how to build Typhus, a bit on clip of safety in case somebody loses an arm. Typhus, like a lot of the others, we've been getting that aren't pre-selected easy to build kits. Has some optional extras, so it does give you an instruction there. Glue points, assemble components, optional assembly. Anything in green is optional. I can't see anything in green there. I'm not sure there will be anything in green. Sorry guys. He's a fairly straightforward single pose model. A lot of the bigger models are single pose. A lot of the cooler models are single pose just because, as you can see, that's how you make a very cool model. Some of them have a few options, but even then it's things like, you get a head with a helmet facing that way or a bare head facing that way. Because the more you limit the pose, the more the sculptor can really go at the model and really make it look like it's doing a specific thing. And if it looks like it's running, then that's great. If it looks like it's posing or holding its scythe aloft like that, it looks more active and like it's doing more than if you have multiple assembly models which kind of don't always look like they're doing. Yeah, if you have multi-pose models, it's often the case that none of the poses are quite as good as the single pose miniature because the sculptor was limited by having to have dozens of potential poses and that. Doesn't mean you can't have multi-loadout models. We just swap weapon out, and a lot of the newer models, such as the Primera Space Marines, are what I think of as limited pose models, in that they've got a bit of variance, so not everybody looks the same, but there's only a few poses capable with each model. If a model is running forward, then you can have him running forward, gun down. You can have him running forward, gun up. You can move the head a bit so that the models look different, and you can swap arms, heads, and shoulder pads and stuff around so that each model is unique. But they're all in roughly, they're all intended for one specific pose, which is cool. I remember when models were just one-piece lead models. If you wanted to convert them, you took a knife and a saw to them, and you hammered the crud and bent the crud out of them, cut the crud out of them, glued the crud out of them, filled the crud out of, and sculpted the crud out of things until you got what you wanted. So, multi-pose models are awesome. There's a lot of fun to be had, particularly with the old Space Marine kits. But the newer models just look better. And I do think that GW were losing ground to some of their competitors who were coming out with single pose or very limited pose models that were looking fantastic once finished. So I think they really had to pay attention to the aesthetic. If you're not sure what I mean, check out Weird Miniatures Malifaux, check out Corvus Belli's Infinity. There's some fantastic models out there. I mean, you get a lot of things like Puppets Award, stuff that looks a bit Space Marine-y. Cromlech do a bunch of really awesome models, some that seem to be a bit Space Marine-y. I don't know whether they're copying or not, I couldn't say. But then you get a lot of stuff that is its own unique thing and really looks, quite frankly, amazing. Which, in my opinion, is why GW had to pull the stops out and really start making amazing models of their own, and not just rely on the multi-pose kits that could do anything. Not that I dislike the multi-pose kits. In fact, to my mind, the thing that keeps GW ahead of everybody else is the fact that their kits are modular, and even with the limited pose models, you can really convert whatever you want, and you can really personalize stuff and make it your Space Marine. Obviously, with the characters, less so, but that's because they are specific special characters. But again, as I said, that gives GW really the ability to just put in a ton of detail and go crazy with it, because they know exactly how it's going to fit together. Here we're going into how to paint Typhus. Typhus is a model with an incredible amount of detail. So really, this is probably going to take you longer to paint than most of the other models because there's more bits to paint. Don't find that daunting. Take your time. Feel free, if you make a mistake, to repaint over it and go again. The models can stand quite a bit of reworking, provided you thin your paints as advised on the GW videos. If you've been looking at the GW contrast paints, a lot of the contrast stuff is having some great effects for skeletons, zombies, and Nurgle type stuff. So give it a crack on one of your other death cards before trying, but Typhus sounds like a great possibility for that. But you can already see there, with a reasonably basic paint job, before they even start putting the washes and the highlights in, that Typhus is one of the more complex models we've had to paint. And you can look there, if you get it looking anything like that, then good on you, you're a good painter. If you don't worry. As long as you like it, that's all that matters. Anything else is a bonus. And if you've been painting all the other models up to this point, you're probably at a good level at this point. And if you haven't, please paint some of the other models before you give Typhus a try, and maybe try some of the techniques out if you want to try out new techniques on your other models, and then bring them to Typhus, because he's a fantastic model and deserves your A game. And I think if you do get everything right and try the stuff out and be happy before you touch brush to model with Typhus, you're probably going to be rewarded with a fantastic looking model. We've got the background for the next thing. Seek the Destroyer. Poxwalkers rise in the hundreds. Their twisted forms push rubble and ruin aside as they lurch forward. With ever greater strength and hunger, the Herald of Nurgle has arrived. So, as we expect, Typhus has arrived in our campaign. We've got Seek the Destroyer. Typhus must be stopped before his rampage brings ruin to what remains of the Second Company's defence of Kalon. To this end, a small unit of Space Marines have breached the Death Guard's lines. Oh goody, a small unit. They'll do well against Typhus. The two armies we've got are Typhus, the Tainted Cohort, which are some badass Plague Marines, 7 basic Plague Marines, a Chaos Runner and 12 Poxwalkers, so that's a hard-ass list right there. So Tainted Cohort's what, 5, so that's 6, so that's 15 Space Marines, 12 Poxwalkers, so that's about 25 models in, no, 27 models in total, and a Rhino. And they're going up against a Captain in Gravis Armour, which you'll need, 5 Reavers, which you'll need, 5 Space Marine Scouts, which you'll need, 2 Inceptors, a Primaris Librarian, and 3 Aggressors. I think the Space Marines are going to have a fight on their hands in this one. The victory conditions. Space Marine Prayer is victorious if Typhus is eliminated. So you've got 5 rounds to run an assassination run. I think you're going to struggle if you try and fight it to the death with this one. Go for Typhus, kill Typhus. Aim your scouts at Typhus, bounce your Reavers in against Typhus. Everything wants to drop in and just twat Typhus with everything they've got. Use all your special abilities and just get in there and kill him. Your guys will probably die, a lot of them, but so what? Let them. Yeah, your job here is literally an assassination alpha strike. Now, let's see how badass Typhus is. Right, we've got his stats there, which, as we can see on the other side, are blank, so that you can keep them in your sort of burgeoning rulebook / codex. We've got movement 4, weapon skill 2, ballistic skill 2, so he's hitting everything that he aims at mostly. Strength 4, toughness 5, which is something that's going to help him stay alive for this battle, so keep an eye on that. Wounds 6, so 6 wounds of toughness 5. He's by no means going to be easy to take out. 4 attacks with that massacre side of his, so watch out for that. A leadership 9 and a 2+ save, so you've got toughness 5, wounds 6 and a 2+ save. He's going to be able to take a lot of punishment thrown at him. Admittedly, if the dice rolls don't go with him, everything dies on a 1. Typhus is a single model with a mastercrafted Man Reaper, Destroyer Hive and Blight Grenades. Only one of this model may be included in your army. So if you're playing Death Guard, in this or any other battle, you can only bring 1 Typhus. If your opponent's playing Death Guard, he can also bring 1 Typhus. But at the end of the battle, it'll turn out one of them wasn't actually Typhus. The one that died wasn't actually Typhus. But an imposter. That's usually the fluff they give for that. The Destroyer Hive, which is a pistol in its weapon type, 6-inch range, so very close. 2d6 hits. Strength 4, AP -3, damage 1, so that'll quite easily kill Marines. Doing, on its basics, between 2 and 12 wounds, that's quite a lot. This weapon always hits on a 5+, even when firing an Overwatch. So if you charge Typhus, you're going to get hit on a 5+, regardless of any modifiers. So his ballistic skill doesn't apply to this. It always hits on a 5+. That being said, you're still going to hit people on Overwatch, so that's cool as well. Mastercrafted Man Reaper. Strength +3, so you're looking at strength 7 weapon. Armor penetration -3. So again, going to kill Marines easily. Damage 3, so that's 4 attacks times 3 is 12. He's capable of doing 12 attacks with a ballistic skill, with a weapon skill of 2. That is nasty. You can re-roll wounds. We can re-roll wounds of 1 for this weapon. So he's got a 2-up weapon skill. So he hits you on a 2-up, and if you roll ones, you get to re-roll them. He is going to hit you a lot, and it is going to hurt. That's before we get to any of the special rules section. Blight grenade, strength 6, grenade D6, so D6 damage on a grenade. Strength 3, so quite weak, but with D6 wounds, it's not attempting to win by strength. Damage 1, no armor penetration. And again, you can reroll 1 on that. So again, he's hitting on 2+ with his ballistic skill, and he's rerolling 1s, so he's going to hit. He's going to hit with that, and then he's going to roll D6 for the damage. Sorry, no, he's going to roll D6, and then he's going to hit on up to 6 hits, and then he gets to reroll 1. So that's horrible. Disgustingly resilient. Each time this model loses a wound on a roll of 5+, the model does not lose that wound. That is not an armor save, so it doesn't get ruled out by the you can only make 1 save rule. It is like the old feel no pain rule in the he makes a 2+ save, and if he doesn't make a 2+, and if he fails that 2+ save, somehow he gets a 5+ save again. You'd be surprised how often that 5+ save will work when you've just failed a 2+ save. So again, going to be hard to get this guy off the board. Death to the False Emperor. For each hit of a roll on 6 this model makes in the fight phase, it can immediately make an extra attack against the same unit using the same weapon. These extra attacks cannot earn more attacks. So he's got 4 weapons, he's hitting on 2s, he's re-rolling 1s. And every 4 weapons, 4 attacks, and every roll of a 6, he gets an extra attack. So in theory, he hits you with a Man Reaper, he rolls 4 6s, he gets 8 attacks. It's exceptionally unlikely, but it could happen. You're probably going to be looking at maybe 1 extra attack a turn. It's not something you can rely on a 6+, but when it happens, it's going to be unpleasant. Host of the Destroyer Hive. Friendly units of Poxwalkers increase their strength and toughness by 1 whilst they're within 7 of Typhus. So those 12 Poxwalkers that you've got are basically going to act as a meat shield. They're going to be tougher than they usually are, and they're going to be stronger than they usually are. Meaning that all of a sudden, I believe their strength 3 is standard, so they're going to be strength 4, so they're going to be as strong and tough. You've got 12 Poxwalkers in this battle that are going to be as strong and as tough as Marines. Good one. As long as they're in 7 inches off Typhus. But you've got to remember, that's a radius, so yeah, if this is a circle, Typhus is the dot in the middle. It's 7 inches from the centre of the circle to the outside, which means across the entire circle, that's a 14-inch bubble. If you're going to be able to fit 12 Poxwalkers in there easily, they're going to easily provide cover and protection for him, the whole thing. See what I mean by you're going to struggle to win this one, guys? Nurgle's Gift. All of the Death Guard within 7 of a friendly Lord of Contagion, and keywords down there for Typhus has Lord of Contagion in it. Sorry, twitchy twitch. Are surrounded by a deadly aura of plague and disease. Roll 1 dice for each enemy unit that is in 1 inch of any affected friendly unit at the start of your turn. On a 4+, that enemy unit suffers 1 wound. So that's one. An enemy unit is either one lieutenant or 10. Or 3 reavers or 10 intercessors or whatever. However you've built the unit. And for each unit, they suffer 1. For each unit that rolls a 4+ suffers 1 wound. So if you've got your captain, your reavers, your space marine scouts, your librarian, and your aggressors all hemmed in there, you could potentially take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wounds across 5 units. Each unit just suffering a wound, as long as they're within 1 inch of a unit that is within 7 inches of Typhus. So, and it doesn't say all Death Guard units completely within 7, so I assume they just need 1 model within 7 for the entire unit to garner from this effect. It doesn't say that you get it twice, but then again, it doesn't say that you can only take 1 mortal wound. So if, for example, you're next to Typhus and the Tainted Cohort, both of which are Death Guard units, or both of which are Death Guard units, you could take one mortal wound from Typhus and then one mortal wound from the Tainted Cohort. Tainted Cohort? That's right, yeah. And before you wonder, it does say Death Guard. That is again in his faction keywords. What else? Teleport Strike. During deployment, you can set up Typhus in a teleportarium chamber instead of placing him on the battlefield. At the end of your movement phase, Typhus can teleport into the battle center up anywhere that is more than 9 inches away from the enemy models. There's a pluses to this. There's also a minus to this. The plus is you don't have to set Typhus up. The minus is if your opponent somehow manages to table you, not necessarily in this mission, but in other missions, before you put Typhus on the battlefield, you've lost. And he counts as a casualty because he never made it to the field. He's not on the field at the end of play. Typhus and the Tainted Cohort may not use the Teleport Strike ability in this mission. Worth noting that, because otherwise you could just hold him back, devastate their ranks with the rest of them at no risk to Typhus. So Typhus has already teleported down. You know he's there. He's not somewhere else waiting to come in. And you've got to hunt him down. Cataphractii armor. Typhus has a 4+ invulnerable save, but you must halve the result of the dice when determining how far he advances. So it slows them down, which is standard Nurgle stuff. They're all asthmatics with the plague. So he can't charge very well. But you have a 2+ standard save, a 4+ invulnerable save, and a 5+ disgusting resilient roll. There's not much more you could do to keep a single figure alive than has been loaded up onto Typhus. Oh yes, and 4 wounds and toughness 5. I forgot about that. Psyker. Typhus is a Psyker as well. Typhus can attempt to manifest 2 psychic powers in each friendly psychic phase, and to attempt to deny 1 power in each enemy psychic phase. He knows the Smite psychic powers and 2 psychic powers from the Contagion discipline. Fuck this guy and the cloud of flies he rode in on. He is nasty. And remembering that you can't aim for a character if there's another nearer unit, remembering that he has 2 abilities that actively encourage your opponent to keep the Tainted Cohort and the Poxwalkers within 14 inches of him. Good luck on this mission, guys. You're going to need to come at him from all angles, and you're going to need to just hit him horrifically and luckily before he counters with everything. But, you know, as I say, keep focused on the mission. It doesn't matter who else you hurt as long as you kill Typhus. You know, if you hurt nobody else and kill Typhus as the Marine player, you've won. And that may, and I'm not going to tell you tactics, but that may well be what you have to do. Got the Destroy Hive down here. When making a shooting attack with this weapon, roll 2d6 to determine how many shots this weapon makes, and then make this many attack rolls. Remember, the Destroyer Hive does not use Typhus ballistic skill to resolve its hits, but always resolves on a 5+, even when it is used to fire Overwatch at charging units. So that's pretty cool there as well. You know, that's just basically explaining what we already read, which is the rules for Destroyer Hive. But again, he's got a 5+ Overwatch. He's got between 2 and 5 attacks. He's got a really good chance of shooting you, of killing a couple of guys on the way in, or of even potentially killing you out of combat. For those unfamiliar, you've got to end up within an inch of the guy to be in combat. If a person coming in if you're charging somebody and they kill enough guys, which with 12 shots from this Destroyer Hive, even at 5+, if you only rolled to just about make it, if he kills guys to the point where you're no longer within that 1 to 2 inch, you're no longer within that 1 inch band where you're technically engaged with him, then you're not engaged and the charge failed. You didn't make it. He killed enough people to stop it happening. So yet again, something in there that is going to make it harder to kill him. He is an exceptionally tough and exceptionally resilient character. So yeah, good luck to my fellow Marine players on this mission. Right, beautiful picture of a Plague Marine leaking its guts with the advice to order more and to pre-order and stuff like that. I'm not sure whether it would be worth pre-ordering at this late stage, but most of the cool stuff hasn't happened yet, so there's still a lot of good stuff to come. Right, next week we are getting the Alchemite Pipes, which is the Mechanicum sector scenery. This is one of my favourite pieces of scenery because it's big and it's quite fat. It's not huge, it's about yay big, but it does provide a good line of sight blocker to hide units, tanks and other things behind. And with most other, pieces of terrain, it will fit together just by standing the pieces on top of each other. Some people have drilled them and magnetized them, and you can quite easily fit small magnets into the rims there. And in addition to that, it will fit in with the other pipes you've already got. So you have got a fairly modular set of scenery, which becomes one big bit of scenery, a bunch of small bits of scenery, and so on, and works really, really well with a lot of the other scenery that you've already got. So it all will look like it's part of one thing. And you can paint up Mechanicum colours, or you can paint up looking like some weird Mad Max distant future oil refinery, whatever you want, and it's going to look pretty good. Week after, fantastic week for me. Next week and the week after, you can easily see we're making our money's worth there. We have got 2 Space Marine Lieutenants. We've got a Space Primaris Ancient holding a battle flag, which we should be getting the rules for. If you don't know the rules, tune in 2 weeks. There's some great rules that go with these guys. You've got 4 Intercessors and an Intercessor Sergeant. So that's another 5-man unit to go on top of the 5-man unit of Intercessors you had, giving you either a 10-man Intercessor unit if you choose to ignore the Sergeantiness, which is fairly easy. He's just got a helmet painted red, but unlike the other Sergeant, he doesn't have a sword or anything. Or 2 5-man units, which is more tactically viable in some cases, less tactically viable in others. So that's fantastic. The magazines, we've got Alchemite Pipes, The Xenos Threat, Orcs and Demonic Incursions in issue 55. So learning something about orcs, that should be interesting. Orcs are one of the coolest things from 40k. When Games Workshop originally created its battle systems, they were loosely modelled after the Tolkien verse. So you had orcs, elves and humans. And when they went into space, they literally just took that with them. The Eldar were originally actually sold as space elves, and they gradually evolved over the name, and that gradually evolved and changed from space elves to Eldar to Aldarai, and so on and so forth. Extra races got dragged in, but orcs are one of the original 40k races, and they're very unique to 40k. They are not like Tolkien orcs at all at this point. They're bright green football hooligans. So they're pretty cool. They've really got their own history, and they've really got a lot of in-depth just through virtue of being one of the longest existing and most loved races in 40k. I don't quite agree with this psychic orcs are so innately psychic that they make things work. I'd much rather the idea that they actually manage to hammer things together that just about somehow work, even though they shouldn't, and are about to blow up any minute. So that's pretty cool. Then in issue 56, we have Space Marine Reinforcements, Space Marine Ancients, and all new battle story. So that's something to look forward to there. Right. If you want Typhus, and if you're a Death Guard player, you want Typhus, comment on this video, and next week your name will be randomly selected through dice roll, and Typhus will be sent to you. Last week, I was giving away these 3 bikes. we had a lot of people comment, which I always really like. I appreciate the comments. One of the reasons I do these comments is, frankly, it keeps me going. It's, having sort of interactions, one of the things that helps me stay focused and just stops me just descending into a black pit of boredom. But the random roll is Aston Balcon. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right, mate. I will poke you on the other message, on your comment on the previous week's video. But you'll need to email me an address to send this to, and I'll get this out to you as soon as I have time. In case you're wondering, the email address for me is wargamerdaduk@gmail.com. I'll also poke you on it, poke you with it later. There you go. I'll get the words out. Okay, I hope everybody enjoyed that, and I will see you next week. Bye, guys. Hi guys, hope you enjoyed that video, and if you did, remember to like and subscribe to my channel. I'm also on Facebook and Twitter. Not sure why, but I am. So if you like it, see me there, and please tell your friends. Thanks very much. Bye.